I want to bring in now somebody who knows this process well, former FDA Commissioner Dr. Mark McClellan, also the former administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, currently the founding director of the Duke Center for Health Policy at Duke University. Dr. McClellan, thank you very much for being on the show on a very important day. Good morning.
Good morning.
You understand this process in a way that many of us simply do not. Talk about what we were discussing at the top of the show, the timeline here. What is your anticipation based on the way that you've seen these things unfold in the past with emergency use authorizations for when the FDA might act on what we expect, what all signs point to, at least right now, is a green light from this advisory board?
Yeah, Hallie, FDA's professional staff has from the beginning of this pandemic tried to set up a process that gets the answers about whether vaccines are going to be safe and effective and does it as quickly as possible, but without cutting corners. So ahead of this meeting, the agency prepared a very detailed analysis. They redid a lot of the work that the scientists at Pfizer had done about their vaccines. And that is what the committee is going to review today, these independent experts. If it goes well, that does mean we could move very quickly to an FDA emergency authorization, just as you were saying, with those vaccines starting to get shipped and in people's arms in a matter of days.
Very quickly means a matter of hours, right? Not days?
Well, very quickly in that the committee will give its advice today. FDA will probably work very quickly to incorporate that in their authorization. So that probably won't happen today in a matter of hours, but will happen in just a matter of a few days. And then the first distribution of the vaccine is all set to go. So I wouldn't expect the vaccinations to start happening tomorrow morning, but if things stay on track, within the next few days.
Which is amazing news, I think, for the people who are desperate to get some kind of hope, right, to know that help is on the way. Commissioner Hahn this morning was on the Today Show talking about that new advisory in the UK about people who have a history of severe allergies to vaccinations, to medications, food, to not get the vaccine. Essentially, he said that the FDA, when the EUA is eventually, if it is issued, will say, here's who should get it, here's who should not get it. When you see what's happening overseas in the UK, how does that play into the discussion that advisory board is having today? Do you expect it to come up and the FDA's discussion on this in the coming days, let's say?
Well, remember, Hallie, that this is just one step. It's a critical step, but it's one step in the process. In addition to the vaccine starting to be available to people who can benefit the most, healthcare workers, people in nursing homes, and then subsequently other people at high risk, we're going to be able to learn a lot more about side effects and about how people actually do in the real world when they get this vaccine. That's going to be the topic of a lot of discussion today, how to do that as effectively as possible. This is a vaccine that does cause side effects. It's going to typically give people more of a reaction than a flu vaccine. You have likely to have a sore arm, may not be feeling good for a day or so, but we haven't seen any significant long-term consequences, safety problems with the vaccine, but we're going to keep looking very closely. That's going to come up today.
Two more quick questions for you. One of the things you're talking about, the issue of side effects, that may be one of the reasons why people might be hesitant to get the vaccine, even though, to be clear, the side effects, normal, expected, far better than actually coming down with COVID. There's new polling out that shows that there are still a significant number of Americans who feel concerned, who aren't sure if they should take the vaccine or who aren't sure if they should take it right away. Is there still this crisis of public confidence here, and how does that get better?
I can understand the concerns. I mean, this has been an incredible year. We've never seen vaccines developed at this pace. We've never dealt with a pandemic like this. So it's understandable that people have questions. And one important goal of today's meetings is to give people a very clear expectation of what would happen if they took the vaccine, that they will likely have some side effects, but they will pass. And on the flip side, they will have a very high likelihood of protection against any serious consequences from getting infected with COVID. A couple of other things to remember is that this doesn't necessarily mean that you can't transmit the infection to other people. That's something we need to learn a lot more about after the vaccines start being used. And it does mean, to your earlier discussion about just the crisis that we're in the middle of right now, no relaxation in the need for masks and the need for distancing and the need to get the pressure down on our healthcare system.
Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. why don't you subscribe? It's really easy. Just click on that button down there. And for more news from MSNBC, click on any of these videos here for the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more videos from MSNBC with our newsletters. Head over to msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up.